Well, hello, GrowthTrack team. My name is Marna, and I am here with Ben, and we are so glad to be talking with you about week 1 of GrowthTrack and really some overall vision pieces. And just some question and answer that we're going to get to, some things that we're hearing from participants and from you. But first off, we are so grateful that you are serving as part of this GrowthTrack team. It's one of the most exciting things.
It is. It's one of the most exciting things. And for us to be able to watch you guys step up and really carry vision and the spiritual journey for the rest of the church has been really fun for us to see.
Yeah, it really has been. So our goal today, again, is to equip you with a lot of vision and why, because you are the primary carrier of that in the GrowthTrack experience for those guests and for our church. And then talk a little bit about your role and do question and answer. So let's jump into that vision piece. When we talk about GrowthTrack and when we think about GrowthTrack, the very first place that we really need to start is to take one step back, and it's really about the spiritual journey. So I want to talk a little bit about that piece first. You are hearing more and more of this, but the spiritual journey is really consisting of 4 principles, and that is know God, find freedom, discover purpose, and make a difference. Those 4 principles are what make up a lifelong relationship with Christ, and it's multiple steps in depth within each of those principles that really help us grow more and more like Him.
Right, yeah, I think so. I think that multiple steps is really, really key, because I think when you think of know God, some people, okay, salvation, and then I move on. Well, really, you know, it is more than that. There's steps within that step of knowing God, of salvation, but then getting in the Word and reading the Bible and learning to pray and connecting through Him through that. So it's more than just salvation. And then find freedom is that second step of where we kind of look at those areas that maybe have strongholds on our life, or maybe we're stuck, and I think it's like, okay, I've experienced salvation, I'm connecting with God, but there's still areas where I'm still a prisoner to, and I think being able to find freedom in those areas in step 2 is one of the things that I've been learning a ton about.
We actually talk about that principle quite a bit. And then when we think about discover purpose, that is that God has a plan and a purpose for us. We are here on purpose for a purpose. And that I love the line that it's like He didn't make you and then go, what am I going to do with? And that goes for Ben and for me and for you and for every single person sitting in our auditoriums and everywhere. And then that leads to really making a difference. So when we step into our purpose, we can really make an eternal difference. So that's a key piece.
It is. I think it all starts with knowing God. I think sometimes we say we just want to be a difference maker, and people want to start with that step.
Yeah.
But in order to get there, they have to know God. They have to find freedom, and that's where they remove the cloudiness and the away from their eyes, so they can really see what God has designed them to be, to where they can step in and make that difference, which is the fun and fulfilling part.
Yeah, it sure is. So that's really the spiritual journey that we are all on, every single one of us. And as a church, what that looks like, and how GrowthTrack fits into that, is that GrowthTrack is really doing primarily discover your purpose. So it's the primary way that we help people take those first steps towards discovering purpose. But purpose happens within the journey. So that's why GrowthTrack is built to really help every single person understand what the journey is. And what their next steps are. So it is doing a lot in the midst of that. Discover purpose is the primary piece, but we know that purpose is, again, entrenched in the journey itself.
Right.
And it's super important that we all understand what that looks like in our life, and that there's next steps in each of those areas.
Right.
So,
yeah. I think you explained that really well as far as the spiritual journey piece. GrowthTrack is not the spiritual journey. People aren't going to go through GrowthTrack and say, okay, I've gone on the journey. I know exactly what it means to be, I've arrived. No, but it does introduce them to all those steps and equips them to then continue to move forward on their spiritual journey.
Yeah, I think one of the other pieces is that this journey language and that GrowthTrack experience is what allows us to start moving together as a church. It gives us a common basis, a common language, a way to really help someone else understand where they are and to take a step. So there is incredible power and freedom, honestly, in our ability to all come together around those principles. So, you're kind of just doing this like little thing. And so one of the other things that we talk a lot about is that when we step into purpose and when we talk about make a difference, that this giftings piece, that we want people to get to do things and not have to do things. And so GrowthTrack is really thinking about that, or really the content of GrowthTrack is really thinking about what does that look like for people, to not have to just, again, check a box because they know that there's a need, but more so that that need matches up with their giftings, and so they're fulfilled through it. So that's a key piece as well, that as you're moving through GrowthTrack and you're thinking about this journey that we're all on, but in part what you are leading people through is to get to a point where they say, hey, if I'm gifted and wired this way, I have an opportunity to make a difference here, and I love that thing, even if Ben doesn't and I don't. That doesn't mean that the person sitting next to me isn't gifted and wired to do that thing. So. So I think that's a really key piece to keep in mind as well. And that leads to sort of this idea that we want gifts-based ministry versus needs-based ministry. So that's a mindset, and that might feel very kind of churchy to you, and I want you to have that same mindset again, is that a needs-based is saying, oh gosh, we've got a lot of spots that we need to fill over here. So whoever you are, go over there and fill those spots. Where this this approach and stepping into giftings and purpose and difference is really about, tell me, what do you love to do? And how are you wired? And what are the things that God has put on your heart? And there is a place in the church where that's happening.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that shift from saying, okay, what are the needs we have in the church? Okay, we need 20 people to work in the kids area at 10:45, and
which we may need.
We'll take anybody. Rather than that, just saying, okay, who's gifted, who's passionate and loves kids and loves teaching them about Jesus, and then it really was designed to do that. And that's really discovering your purpose. That's the piece.
That's the heart of it.
That's the heart of it, where they're coming in on Sunday saying, I can't believe I get to be a part of this, that I get to use the gifts and the way God made me to make an impact and make a difference for him, rather than people saying, oh man, I got to go in again on Sunday morning, go into a room with a bunch of kids. I can't believe I got to do that.
Yeah. So that's really the all of the vision and the why behind both the spiritual journey as well as GrowthTrack. And again, your role as a host is really carrying that in so many ways. And that really leads us to talking about the different roles on the GrowthTrack team. And I really want to kind of start with the role that Ben and I play. One of the great privileges that we have is to be able to work with all 5 campuses and really look at, our perspective is really the one church. And what that means is that you and your team and the Next Steps director at your campus have every opportunity to give us a sense of what that looks like at your campus. So if I'm at South Toledo and I'm serving on the GrowthTrack team, and Andy Rechtenwald is the Next Steps director, he is who I can go to with, here's what's working, here's what's not, here's some ideas I have. Gosh, this is really great. I'm not sure about that. And what Andy gets to do is really bring that to a table of all of our campus directors who are saying, hey, this is working, this isn't, and we can put one product together that we feel like serves our entire church. So you play a really critical role in that, and then we get to hopefully make adjustments and changes and improvements based on the experiences that you and your campus director are having.
Yeah, we love hearing back from the campuses and what's working, what they have questions about, and so when we sit down with the Next Steps directors at each campus, that's really a valuable time for us to hear what is going on. So for you guys to be communicating with them is really important, because then they in return can communicate to us, and we can just continue to make GrowthTrack a great experience for people, and move forward in helping people discover their purpose.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of fun about this is our one training, so that all 5 campuses and all GrowthTrack teams are hearing this, but you will be working with your Next Steps director on the nuances of your campus and the specific room that you're in, and all the equipping pieces that come with who you are serving at your campus. So So that's kind of fun to think about.
Yeah.
And how about your role? When I think about a GrowthTrack host or facilitator, we wanted to talk about some of the qualities that it takes to really do this well. And
Right.
it's a big role.
It is a big role. I think for us, sometimes when we have been able to sit in the GrowthTrack weekend experience, when we see someone who's just on, right on point, they seem like they're fired up and excited,
Yes.
and they're bringing energy and fun. Like, we'll have conversations like, hey, what is it about this that just has clicked for you, or you seem like you're in a great space. And
Yes.
a lot of times when we have that conversation, they just say, I was prepared. Like, I came in ready. I went over the script and
Yes.
not the script, but the plan,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I knew exactly what I was going to accomplish when I walked in today.
Yeah, I think that has been the key differential between the facilitators and hosts that feel like they got to the end of the session and went, that was fun. Because our experiences is that your giftings are lining up, that preparation
Right.
is really what makes the difference. And so certainly you are a vision carrier. I'm going to glance at my notes here a little bit so I don't miss anything. You're a vision carrier for the journey and how GrowthTrack fits for people. And that's a really key piece, but you're knowledgeable and prepared with content.
Right.
So you really know where you're headed. When you're doing week one, you know that after that vision piece that you're stepping right into a would you rather. And so you're ready to just set it up and say, hey, let's get to know each
Right.
other a little bit, and spend a little bit of time answering some fun questions. And so that is, hands down, we just cannot say it enough. Preparation is key.
Preparation. I think one of the other keys is just to have fun.
Yes.
Just make it a great experience where people are enjoying being there.
Yeah.
Bring some laughter to it. I think some of the exercises that are in the plans allow for that as well. But again, in order to do that, I think the preparation does come in. Like, if you're not prepared,
It's
it's
not
not
fun. It's not fun for anybody, So, so you're welcoming, warm hospitality. I know for me, I often think of that GrowthTrack room as being like my home or my family room, or as I would invite a guest into my home, what are the things that I would treat them to? How would I interact with them? And that's what helps give me sort of the spirit that keeps me in a good space as a facilitator and host. And I think sharing your own stories,
That's huge.
bringing
Yeah.
your personality to it. One of the things that I think happened early on, so if you've been with the team for a while, those plans almost felt like scripts. In fact, we had a great host who was like, oh, I thought this was a script and I was supposed to be reading right off of it. And that was not our heart, although I see it now. I was
Right,
like,
right.
oh, right. So the templates are really designed to give you a sense, again, of where you're going, what's happening when. There is some scripting in there to give you a snapshot of what that can feel like and look like, but you don't have to read it verbatim. You can put it into your own words other than the spiritual journey.
Right.
That would be the one piece that has to be down, so that no matter what campus I went to, I would hear those 4 principles and that vision cast in the same way. But man, your personal stories bring
They're
life
big.
into these.
They are
so,
huge.
Yep.
I think beyond that is just being equipped and ready to help people with the next steps.
Yeah.
And the plan helps you with that, and help equip you to know what those next steps are. But really, every time a GrowthTrack experience ends, we want people to be ready to take a next step. So we want to make it super simple and clear as to what those next steps are as well.
Yeah, and it might be as simple as come back next week. But for some people, if they're sitting in week 1 and they're thinking, I don't really have a relationship with Christ, there's perhaps a different next step before that week 2, and we'll get to some of that. So I think the last thing is that this journey has to be your own as well. It has to be part of what you've taken in. It has to be your own stories that tie together with the principles. And so sometimes that's the preparation piece that is the work of, boy, do I know the journey enough? Would I be able to tell a quick story of what it's looked like when I knew God? Or when I stepped into that relationship with him, or what the ongoing pieces looked like for me, what happened when I first discovered purpose. Ministry is an overflow of our own hearts and the work that God is doing in them. And here's, in case you didn't know, this is your ministry work. And it's the work that He's calling you to, and He wants to do a work in you as much as He wants to do it through you. So our hope is that you're experiencing some of that, and if you're not, then let us know that, because we want that to be your experience for sure. So, okay, so a couple things on the program plan. I have it pulled up like way over here to the left of me, but I just want to talk a little bit about every program plan is set up kind of the same way. They start with an overview that includes the vision piece, what prep goes into it, so kind of like what you can use as preparation as a host, but also some things to consider that you would have as part of your week there. So for example, this particular video link, hopefully you received it in the program plan as part of prep, that particular line item. There's also a scope, so it talks about what it takes to implement week 1, so it's a video. There's a host, you, who's carrying vision and connection. The next steps are salvation, baptism, and those lifelong steps to knowing God. So that's a snapshot of what that looks like. And the length of time is 1 hour. We are 1 hour for all of these sessions. And so we should probably have included time manager in your host qualities, because there is so much happening in that hour. You're vision carrying, you're connecting with people, and you are watching the clock.
You're watching the clock. Some of the exercises, the would you rathers and all these things, it's like,
we can't
this
get
is going
camped
long,
there.
so it's fun.
Yeah. One of the things we're experiencing too is that sometimes if we don't get started on time, we will compromise the vision piece to get to some of the what's. I got to get to would you rather, so I better cut this sort of intro short. And so start on time, give yourself the time to set the vision so that people understand that this is for them, that the journey is about their personal relationship and their growth, and certainly connecting with our church and what that can look like here, but don't compromise the vision. And so then hopefully you're looking at this program plan too. You're stepping into that would you rather that we've mentioned a couple times. So again, a connecting point. I think one of the things to keep in mind too is that you can be relational and connecting with them in that room, and that doesn't mean that the connection is a lifelong connection for you. I think it's the heart of the relational piece, that this is what it looks like to interact with people who are a part of our church all the time.
Just that genuine authenticity that we're there for them, not for the church. We're not there to ultimately find someone to work in our kids area. We're there to help someone know God, find freedom, discover their purpose, and make a difference. We're there on that spiritual journey. And I think when you have those conversations with people just authentically, they will see that for sure.
They will see that. So so that's why those would you rathers and those connecting times are a little shorter maybe. Maybe there's sometimes like, gosh, why aren't we doing more of those? But that's in part why. And Ben does his teaching video, then it's next steps. And we will get to a couple of those. We've got some questions about starting points, so we will probably spend a little bit more time there, but we talked about baptism as a next step right off of week 1. We're finding many people will go, I would like to get baptized, but can I do it next month? Yes, absolutely. So you, again, having an awareness of what those next steps look like, and then being able to close in prayer. So you can wrap up with vision, close with a short prayer, and then you move on to baptism. For the most part, my understanding is that as hosts or facilitators, you are able to help people get their things together. You can chit chat about just, again, that relational piece, but you are not moving people into baptism. That's a different team, that's doing that. So that's a big flyover of the program plan. To be honest, there's enough details that I hope if you're looking at a print piece, some of the, not scripting, but our hope of what it feels like is there. And I don't want to go through it any more than that, because I think as you prepare, you're going to see that those are, I hope, detailed enough, and let us know if they're not. So, okay, you ready for questions?
Yeah, let's do some questions.
Okay, so if someone is in GrowthTrack and they haven't taken the step to know God, what is their next step?
So I think one of their next steps would be, one, we just want to encourage them to finish GrowthTrack and continue to go through that, and go to the weekend service.
Yes.
I think just continuing to go to the weekend service. And when we talk about certain things or certain programs that we have at church, like GrowthTrack is to help people discover their purpose. Groups really are there to help people find freedom, and the weekend service is what we as a church do to help people know God.
That's so if that primary way, not the only, but it's the primary.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if someone is in GrowthTrack, they sit through week 1, they haven't made that decision, they're not ready to make the decision. I think one of the things we want to really encourage them to do is just keep going to the weekend service.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another thing we do have for them is we've got groups. And one of the groups we have is called Starting Point.
Yeah.
And Starting Point is a great curriculum from North Point Church with Andy Stanley.
Yeah.
Teaches it, and that is to, it's really designed for people who are seekers, returners. So maybe they used to be a believer, used to be a church goer, and they've kind of stopped going, and now they're returning. And new believers as well. So I think that's somewhere you could send them, would be the Starting Point group.
Yeah, and again, these are suggestions. So it's just, hey, have you ever considered this? Or we offer this. It can you can step in at any start of the semester. It doesn't have to be this one. So I think just keeping a very open hand about that. Jumpstart is the other opportunity that we offer new believers. So you might have a Jumpstart group and a Starting Point group at your campus. This is, again, where your Next Steps director can really equip you for what that looks like at your campus. So, okay, so why isn't this a class about knowing God? This has been an interesting one for us. Sometimes other church programs or other things that people have been through have been a bit more of a checkbox. Like, if I go here, I will have done this. Where, again, the heart of GrowthTrack is to equip you with the spiritual journey. So are you going to know something more about God when you walk out of week 1? I hope so, to be honest. Every time I listen to that content and I think about receiving from God and what that relationship looks like, I'm like, okay, right. But that might feel like a review to some people, and our goal is not for it to be a Bible study. It is not for you to, again, check a box to say, well, now, I didn't know that about God. Now I know that, check. It's to equip you for a lifelong journey with Him in that, and multiple steps. And He brings us to new experiences where we have to know Him differently. And so our hope is that we talk about that in a way that allows people to continuously grow in that principle. So
yeah, I think that lifelong journey piece is so critical. I know for us, even as we talk about the spiritual journey, and we've been talking about, with the language of know God, find freedom, discover purpose, and make a difference for almost 2 years. Yeah. And it continually there's moments where we're like, oh man, this is fresh. This is something that I didn't recognize before. This is a way that I'm receiving from God that is new to me. And sometimes it's a season of life thing or whatever, but I think just knowing it is a continual process, and that just going to a class isn't going to ultimately bring you to the complete knowledge of knowing God, but it is going to help equip you.
Yeah, let us know if you find that class.
That'd be
so, all right, our last one is, what if we have someone who says, you know what, I already know all of this. This is another piece for us where I think that this is a great opportunity to connect with someone. So if they're like, I already know all of this, like, tell me about that. What does that look like for you before? So we're finding that the more that we can connect with somebody where they are, learn their story, and this is where then you have an opportunity to vision cast a little bit and to say, well, GrowthTrack is really designed to help you with that lifelong journey, all the pieces that we've talked about, and then offering them a next step of, so who are you helping to bring along the journey? That's one of the questions that we're asking ourselves, and that I'm asking myself personally, is that if I know what it looks like to receive from God, then how am I helping someone else to know that same thing? I hope you and all of us understand that this was not meant to be a journey that was always moving in this direction, and we weren't bringing anybody along with us. It was always to make more disciples and to show people what it looked like. So we're finding that question pretty darn challenging ourselves. And I think you can gently ask that to say, gosh, I hear you. I can see that. Or if you felt that same way, but I really had to start asking myself, so who else am I bringing along? When we are helping someone else grow, we are growing too. And so that can be a bit of a shift for people who are just maybe in different space still. So you might have some of those challenging questions. You might not be. I know one host was telling me, like, I barely have time to talk to one person before
Right.
everybody's kind of out the door. But these are the things that we hope equip you the best to be able to answer questions, to carry vision, and to understand those big whys and why this is such an important piece for our church. So I think that's it. Do we have anything else?
No, I think that's it. We've got some more videos or some more trainings coming for future weeks, and we'll get into some other things in more detail. But we're just so excited that you guys are on this journey with us and using your gifts to make a difference.
Yeah, thank you so much for stepping in, and continue again to offer your input and feedback to your Campus Next Steps directors. We hear all the incredible work that you're doing, and we pray for you, and we think of you so often, and hopefully are doing the things that you need to be able to do this role the very best that you can. So thank you so much for all that you're doing, and we'll see you at an upcoming Growth Track.
Sounds good.